Right, welcome back to our second lecture on BC308. We've just gone through chapter 2 of Daniel. Once again, I just want to ask any questions so far on understanding the image, Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and the interpretation. Right? So, just to quickly recap that, this image, head of gold, brass, silver, iron mixed with clay. And he hasn't highlighted much here, but the 10 toes are also important, 10 toes. As we progress, these things will become clear. Like all these things are representing something, right? Because later on we'll talk about 10 horns, 10 toes, 10 horns representing leaders. So what I want to keep in mind is that he has stated here clearly that each part of this image is representing kings and kingdoms. If we're talking about kings and kingdoms, it also means we're talking about geographical territories. Because these are earthly kings and kingdoms. That means they are existing in somewhere on the earth. Right? So, head, we know, Babylonian. So Babylonia, which in today's map would be basically mainly Iraq. Iraq. Babylonia. Iraq. Then he has told us about other parts, which right now, let us keep it suspense. We don't know. Actually, we know. But he has not given it to us in chapter 2, so we won't say anything. But there's another kingdom, another kingdom, another kingdom. So then, iron. Again, king and kingdom. But in that region where there was iron, where the Iron Empire was ruling, that region will then become like iron mixed with clay. Remember, it is geography. So in that geographical area or region where the Iron Kingdom used to be, okay, again, iron, I'm keeping suspense. Okay. Where the Iron Kingdom used to be, in that area, it will change to iron mixed with clay. That means clay, he has said, people from all over the world, seed of men, they are coming there and they're living together with people who were the original people in that area. They're all living together. Okay. And during that time, God will set up his kingdom. Okay. Now, let us now go to, we'll come back to Book of Daniel, but I want to jump over to Book of Revelation, chapter 17, because in Revelation 17, there is a connect. Revelation 17, we'll look at verse 10, 11, 12. There is a connecting back to the sequence of kingdoms that we're beginning to think about now because of Daniel chapter 2, and we'll get into the details as we go through Daniel. But in Revelation 17, okay, let's read 9 to 12. Revelation 17, 9 to 12. Somebody could read that. Revelation 17, 9 to 12.
Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings, 5 have fallen. One is, and the other has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short time. And the beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast.
Okay. Now I know we are reading only a sudden small portion. Like, what is he talking about? 7 mountains, this, that, and all. It's very confusing. Actually, it is very, like when we connect all the passages, very clear. Okay. But what I want to do is, I want us to connect back. So he says, verse 9, Revelation 17:9. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. The woman is talking about in Revelation 17:1, this harlot, the great harlot, Babylon. So it is actually a religious system. So, and when we come to Revelation, I'll explain it. But this religious system has been going through 7 mountains, 7 kingdoms. It's been there a long time. So 7 mountains. Mountains, what are mountains? Kingdoms. See, same prophetic images are being repeated in the Bible. God is using those images again and again. Right? So when we see something, make a note. Oh, mountain. One of the meanings of mountain is kingdoms. Because sometimes he will repeat the same image to convey the same meaning. Right? So verse 9, 7 heads, kings, heads represent kings. We'll see again in Daniel when we go back. We will see it. Heads, kings, leaders. 7 mountains, kingdoms, on which this woman has influence. She's sitting means she has influence over these people. She has been having all this influence. But I want to focus on the kingdoms. Verse 10. Verse 10. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen. That means 5 are in the history. They've gone. They've come and gone. 1 is question. Because this is a clue. 1 is. Who is currently at that time? John was there, John the Beloved. Which was the empire at that time? Roman. Clue. Given to you. So now you know who are the feet of iron. Romans. It's given here. Revelation 17:10. 5 have fallen. So how you can look at it in 2 ways. Some Assyrians, Babylonians, Medes, Persians, Greeks. 5 have fallen. History. 1 is. Who is? Romans. So you got it here, no? Oh, this is who he's referring to. 1 is. The other has not yet come. So the 6th one here, 1 is 6th one. Other is not yet come. Then when he comes, the leader and the kingdom, he will continue for a short time. The beast that was and is not is also the 8th, that is talking about the Antichrist, is of the 7. I mean, he's part of this. He's part of these 7 kingdoms. He belongs to that. He's coming from that same area, region, and is going to perdition. And we'll come back to the details of the beast, and I mentioned it. It's referring to the Antichrist and all those things. We'll come back. The 10 horns. I'll explain that later on. But the 10 horns here he's referring to corresponds to 10 toes in Daniel 2, and we'll see the 10 horns again in Daniel. So as we go through Daniel, it'll help us understand all that we are seeing here clearly. But the reason I came here is to help us understand. 1 is. Who is? That was the Roman Empire. When John was being given the book of Revelation, the empire that he was part of was the Romans. They had taken over the full area, that whole region. Most of Europe, across the Mediterranean, into northern Africa, and parts of Turkey, Syria, all that was under the Romans at that time, when John was being given the book of Revelation. Okay, Now let's go back to Daniel. As we go to Daniel, all these things will become clear. But let's go back to Daniel. Daniel 2. We finished Daniel 2. We are skipping Daniel 3 and 4, and we'll just pick up a little portion in the end of Daniel 5. So Daniel 2, 3, 4 are historical, meaning these are events that actually happened. Now, at the end of, when we come to Daniel chapter 5, by this time, Daniel 5 verse 1 begins with Belshazzar, who is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. So times have changed. Okay, Nebuchadnezzar died. Then his son had come, and then you have, the Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. He is now in charge, and he is, having this great celebration and all those things, and having a big party and all of that. He's using all the utensils that they had taken from the temple in Jerusalem. And while he's having that big feast and party, there is a hand that suddenly comes and writes something on the wall. Yeah. So they're all shocked. Hey, what is this? And it says in Daniel 5:25, this is the inscription, right? Many tekel upharsin. So what is this? And then that's where the people realize, oh, there is a wise man. His name is Daniel. He has, done things. He has served your grandfather Nebuchadnezzar. You call him, he'll come and interpret it. And so Daniel comes in, and so let's just pick up from here. Daniel 5, verse 26 to 30. Somebody could read that, please. Daniel 5, 26 to 30.
Verse 26. This is the interpretation of each word. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar given the command, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a chain of gold around his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him that he would be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
Okay. So they're having all this pain, then this thing, the inscription, Daniel comes in, interprets it. And he's saying, your kingdom, Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. So he's telling the king. So this is the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Your kingdom, he doesn't give the time, but he says your kingdom has been given to the Medes and the Persians. So the Medes and Persians would be what today, according to today's geography, would be Iran, or we would say Iranians or the Persians, Iran. Right? So he's saying these people are going to take over your kingdom. Medes and Persians. So the reason we say Medes and Persians is because in terms of ethnicity, they were very close. But first the Medes came. So the Medes were the ones who took over, actually. But the Medes were immediately overthrown by the Persians. So, but they all belong to the same, tribes, same tribe. So we say that sometimes they refer to us together, but in sequence, Medes came, then the Persians. So your kingdom is given to them. And that very night, Darius came, attacked, overthrew Belshazzar, and he took over the kingdom. Okay, so this chest of brass, right? Chest of brass. Bronze. Yeah. represents the image, head, chest and arms of silver, belly and chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze. Sorry, got it mixed up. Gold, silver, bronze, iron. Okay, gold, silver. Right? So this chest of silver is representing the Medes and the Persians. They are the next in line. Okay. So Daniel said they are going to take over. And it happened. Okay. And that very night. So that's chapter 6, where now Daniel is serving under Darius, the Medes, the king of the Medes. And then afterwards, Darius gets overthrown, and Cyrus, the Persian king, takes over. Okay, so that transition we can see. And in the notes, page 7, I put down the history and all of that. It's just for us to know that exactly what Daniel said actually took place. But let's now go to chapter 7. Okay, Daniel chapter 7. So now we are actually moving into the second half of the book of Daniel, where everything now is prophetic. Okay, so till now there was a little bit of history. We skipped the history parts. We want to understand Daniel's prophecies starting from chapter 7. Keep in mind that chapter 2 has given us the outline. So everything we're going to read now, chapter 7, 8, 9 on, is going to explain more and more about these different parts of that image and what is going to happen. Okay, so let's read from, again, we want to read Daniel 7. We want to read it and then explain it. Let's see. Let's do verses 1 to 10. Or let's do verse 1 to 8 first. Daniel chapter 7, verses 1 to 8. 2 verses each, please.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head while on his bed. Then he wrote down the dream, telling the main facts. Daniel spoke, saying, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea.
And 4 beasts came up from the sea, each different from the other. The first was like a lion and an eagle's wings. I watched till its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and a man's heart was given to it.
And suddenly another beast, a second like a bear. It was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And they said thus to it, Arise, there much flesh. After this I looked, and there was another, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given it to.
After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the receipts with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it has 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there is this horn, where eyes like eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous words.
Mm, mm. Okay, so we read Daniel 7, verse 1 to 8. Now, Daniel chapter 7, verse 1, he says, in the first year of Belshazzar. So that means this vision was actually given to Daniel before what we read in end of Daniel chapter 5. Okay. Daniel chapter 5, we are reading an incident. We are reading that prophetic thing, that handwriting on the wall, which happened at the end of King Belshazzar. That was his last night, last day, or last thing. Okay, so we read that. But this is Daniel 7 verse 1 is saying, in the first year when he became king. Okay, so the dates I have given in the notes. This is 553 BC. What happened end of Daniel 5 was 539 BC. Okay, so about 13 years difference. So this was given, Daniel 7 was given about 13 years before what we read in end of Daniel chapter 5. Okay, so this was given to Daniel. Now, this passage again is very strange because it is being given in the form of strange images, beasts, a lion, all kind of mixing, lion, bear, leopard, or the mixed, strange beasts, strange things. So our immediate reaction is, how do we interpret it? The good thing is the interpretation is given in the same chapter. So we just have to read on. It will tell us, oh, this represents this, this represents that. Okay, so which we are going to do. But at the same time, I want to make a note, that he says in verse 2, I saw the four winds of heaven stirring up the great sea. Right? And the four beasts, so he's talking about the four beasts, which he will describe. They came from the sea. Right? So, winds, sea, or waters are again prophetic images for us to make a catalog, for us to make a catalog. Right? So, the four winds are like, I mentioned this in the notes, one of the ways that we recognize one of the meanings of these winds are the forces, things that are happening upon the waters. Forces. Things that are happening. But what are the waters? Here he's saying great sea, waters, seas. What is that? So, if you go to Revelation 17, we will see the meaning of this. So just go to Revelation. We'll come back to chapter 7 of Daniel, but 17. So we will see this again here. Revelation 17, we'll read verse 1 and verse 15.
Just 1 and 2.
Yes.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 1. Then one of the seventh angels who had the seven bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters.
Okay. So there is this great harlot sitting on waters. Okay. So right now, don't worry about harlot and all. We'll come back to it later. But we're trying to understand the meaning of the waters, sea, as a prophetic image. What does that mean? Right? So here in this verse 1, this great harlot is sitting on many waters. What does verse 15 say?
Verse 15. Then he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues.
What are waters? Peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So it's given here only. So great sea, waters. God uses that image, waters, great sea, as an image representing nations, peoples, multitudes. He's given it to us in the Bible. Now, I'm not saying every time you see water, it means this, because water can also mean Holy Spirit. Right? It can also mean other things in the Bible. Right? So, depending on the context, what is God saying? In prophetic imagery, waters are representing nations. So the winds are moving on the waters. Means like these are forces that are affecting nations. So, for example, today we will say, what are the forces that are affecting the nations? There are, you would say, geopolitical, global politics, global economics. So many forces are actually affecting people all over the world. So those are the winds, the forces that are affecting the nations. So in Daniel 7, he's saying, I'm seeing the four winds are moving upon the sea. That's the people, the nations are being affected. And from the sea come these four beasts, one after the other. What is it telling us? That means from among the nations, among the peoples of this planet, of this earth, are coming one beast, another beast, another beast, another beast. Four beasts are coming. It's from the multitudes, from the people. So, and we came to Revelation 17 just for us to understand how the image is given and the meaning of the image is also given. So we have to consistently say, okay, waters represent nations, peoples, tribes, tongues, multitudes of people. Okay. Now going back to Daniel 7, he says, I saw the four winds that were stirring up the great sea. Four beasts came from the sea. Each was different. And then he gives us the description of each. Right? And so he talks about this fourth beast. Verse 7. It was very strong. And it conquered everything. It had huge iron teeth. Verse 7. It was breaking in pieces, trampling, and so on. It was different from all the beasts that were before it. And from that, you're with me in verse 7, right? Daniel 7:7. And it had from this fourth beast, came 10 horns. 10 horns. We'll see what they mean. I'm just highlighting this. So we'll look at the meaning. Verse 8. And while Daniel was thinking about what are these 10 horns, he says, there was another horn, a little one, coming up, before whom 3 of the first 10 were plucked up by the roots. That means this little horn came, it overpowered 3 out of the 10 horns. And then he says, this little horn, there were eyes like a man, and it was speaking pompous words. Okay. See, like once we understand everything, when you go back and read it, in your mind, everything is very clear. But first time you're reading it, so what is this? 4 beasts. And from the fourth beast, 10 horns. And then another little horn. Okay. I'm not telling everything now because it has to slowly unfold, right? But for me, it's like, okay, very clear. I understand what is it. Okay. But, so Daniel 7, 1-8. So he's seeing what's happening on earth. Okay, we've read through it. I've highlighted a few things. We still haven't understood everything. Okay, we just, know something he's seen. Then suddenly his vision changes to what is happening in heaven. Okay, so 1-8 is what is happening here on earth. 9 onwards is something that is going to happen concerning the kingdom of heaven. Right? So it's a separate part. Let's read it. Daniel 7, 9 to 14, please. Daniel 7, 9 to 14. 2 verses each.
Pastor, can you hear me?
Yes, please read. Yes.
Yeah. As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire, and its wheels were blazing. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from before him. Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were open. Then I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. I continue, Pastor?
Yes, please. Till end of verse 14. Yeah.
Yeah. In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancients of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. Amen.
Amen. All right. So he has seen what he's told us what's happening here on earth, the sea, and what's happening among the nations. Now his vision is towards heaven. Right? And this is where we are saying for the first time, we are seeing the phrase ancient of days. So I'm saying, he says, I see the ancient of days. And thousands of people are standing before, and the courts are open. And that means God is sitting, to judge over all things. And at that time, verse 11, he says, the sound of pompous words which the horn was speaking. So it mentioned to us a little horn speaking boastful things. That was at the end of verse 8. That little horn, he's saying, hey, that little horn was slain and was put in burning flame. So this corresponds to Revelation chapter 20, when the Antichrist, end of Revelation 19, when the Antichrist will be destroyed and he'll be thrown into the lake of fire. So Daniel is seeing this. This is like 535 years before Jesus. You're seeing this, which John writes again, Revelation 19. When Christ comes, he will conquer the beast and the false prophet, that is, and Antichrist and the false prophet, and they'll be thrown into the lake of fire. So that he's saying, I watched, and because the sound of pompous words which a horn was speaking, I watched the beast was slain, his body destroyed, given to burning fire. And so the rest of the beasts, that means the kingdoms that you had seen before, their dominion was taken away, but those kings and kingdoms, they're for a season and a time. They are still in hell, but they will be transferred into the lake of fire. So that will happen in the end of Revelation 20. And then he's saying, verse 13 and 14, I watched. So he's seeing something else, another scene happening. The Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. That's the phrase Jesus kept on using for himself. You will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. You'll see the Son of Man coming in the cloud. Hey, this is exactly what Daniel said. This carpenter is telling it is him. For the Jews, it was, how could he do this? This is Daniel's prophecy. And the one who was seen in heaven, who was standing before the Ancient of Days. And to him was given the kingdom, the dominion, and all authority was given to him. Okay, so he's talking about how Jesus is going to receive all authority. So now we want to so now again it shifts back to those beasts that he was thinking, that he was shown. What are the meaning of those beasts? Going back now. So verse 15 on. Okay, let's read verses 15 to 17, please.
Verses 15 to 17. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit within my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near to one of those who stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made known to me the interpretation of these things. Those great beasts, which are four kings, which arise out of the earth.
First interpretation. Verse 17. Those great beasts which are four kings which arise out of the earth. Right? So kings, or verse 17, if you see that, it refers to kingdoms. If you look at again verse 23, if you jump to verse 23, can you read that?
Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces.
So, fourth beast, fourth kingdom. So each of these beasts are representing a kingdom with its kings. Of course, a kingdom will have many kings over time. It's representing kingdoms. So the four beasts that you saw are four kingdoms that will come out of the earth. Now it begins to think, hey, in chapter 2, he saw one image. He saw different parts of the image. And he said, these are all different kingdoms. Now, something similar is coming, but in a different way, through those beasts. Right? Through those beasts. But he's talking about the same thing. He's talking about kingdoms. Kings and kingdoms. Chapter 2, kings and kingdoms. Same thing. So we begin to see, okay, parallel. Right? We begin to see parallel. Then, verse 18, but the saints of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess his kingdom even forever and ever. That means, okay, that is that time when that rock from heaven will come and crush the whole thing, and the mountain will be set. That is the kingdom of God. And what will happen at that time? At that time, the saints will rule on the earth. She's explaining that in verse 18. But the saints of the Most High will receive and possess the kingdom forever and ever. So this is amazing, because you come into the New Testament, Paul is writing about this. He says in 1 Corinthians 6, Paul says, don't you know that we will reign, we will rule over angels, and we ourselves will rule? And then Revelation 20, John is writing, when Jesus sets up his kingdom, the saints will rule with him. So now we are seeing parallel verses to that. Daniel 7, verse 18 is seeing those things. Yeah. Oh, it all becomes very clear. Okay. I understand what he's saying. Right? Now, verse 19. It says, okay, so now the rest of the chapter is explaining a little bit more about this king and this kingdom. Let's just let's do verse 19 and 20. I'll read it and we'll explain. Then I wish to know the truth about the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, exceedingly fruitful, dreadful, with its teeth of iron, with its nails of bronze, which devoured and broke in pieces and trampled the residue with its feet, and the 10 horns that that were on its head, and the other horn that came up before which three fell, namely that horn which had eyes and a mouth, which spoke pompous words, whose appearance was greater than his fellows. Now, you draw a parallel to the image, right? The fourth beast is the feet of iron, because first head of gold, chest of silver, waist of bronze, feet of iron. Fourth beast. So saying this fourth beast is very powerful. Then we know what happens after the fourth beast. There's iron mixed with clay. Chrome. And then he says, then there are these 10 horns that come. So corresponds to 10 toes that came out of that same region. 10 toes, 10 horns are coming out. 10 horns. And then there is this little horn who overpowers 3 of those 10 horns. Then he's saying, verse 21, I was watching, and the same horn, verse 21, was making war against the saints and prevailing against them until the Ancient of Days came, and a judgment was made in favor of the saints of the Most High, and the time came for the saints to possess the kingdom. So this little horn was making war against the saints. Now this parallels, Revelation 12, when we go there later, when we see how the dragon, through working through the Antichrist, in the second half of the tribulation, he'll make war against the saints, going after the Jewish people, and especially those who believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Right? So that is same thing is being mentioned here, Revelation 7:21. Right? That this horn, this Antichrist, will make war against the saints, and for a period of time, he'll be given the ability to overpower them. Right? And so let us pause here. We will continue from verse. We'll review again chapter 7, and I will explain this. There's a lot of information here in verse 23 to 28. We'll go through it. But what I'd encourage you to do is, between today and next Tuesday, read through chapter 2, 7, and also 8. Next week we'll cover 8 and 9. So read through it, and you try to underline, you try to understand, he's already said this, he's already given meaning. Because when you go to chapter 8, he will tell you the meaning, or he will mention, once again, the kingdoms of Mede, Persia, and he'll mention Greece in chapter 8. So he'll give solely the names of these empires will also come out. It's all in the book of Daniel. You can see it. Then you connect. And I've put a little chart there on page 9, which compares chapter 2, 7, 8. What he saw, the image of gold, the beasts, and then the ram and the goat. You can compare it, and you'll see a parallel coming through, and everything becomes very clear as we go through this. Okay, but let's pause here. Any questions? Anything that was not clear that you want me to repeat or explain? Okay, let's close. We will continue this next week, and it'll be useful if you read chapters 2, 7, 8, and 9, just in preparation for next week. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yes.